Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of Novel Therapy. I'm Kate Fennessy, aspiring author and social media marketer.
And I'm New York Times bestselling author Helen Brown.
So hi everyone. So it's episode 4 already.
I know. Welcome to my clinic. I mean, you're becoming quite a regular here.
I am, thank you.
You'll have to get a frequent patient card at this rate.
Exactly. Jonah's asleep, so I didn't get checked in by
He's
Jonah
actually
this morning.
in my bad books because there's a nasty smell in my living room. When Kate goes, I'm going to have to go and swab out and try and find out where that is.
Yes, it's the darker side of having lovely
It's the
pets.
darker side of Jonah.
Yes, Jonah, but that's okay. He's just having his presence known all over the house.
I know. He gets so jealous when there's attention elsewhere. Anyway, that's beside the point.
Exactly. We'll start with our checkup. So that's what we always do to start our clinic.
So what have you been doing, Kate?
I have big news that I'm hoping Tara, our guest from last week, may be listening to. I was so shamed about having foxtail and being like an old person. That's what she said. That I have basically got rid of foxtail. I got a cheap smart TV. I've got my Netflix situation sorted, which I needed to do for ages. So I have got rid of foxtail, and I have been binge watching The Crown.
Oh, the earlier. It's not a new series
No,
yet,
it's
is it?
on Netflix. It's got 2 series, and the third one's coming. The
Yeah,
third one's
that's
coming,
right.
and there's big talk of the third one.
No, it's going to be
Because
brilliant.
it's Olivia Colman,
Yeah.
and it's I think Helena Bonham Carter, and I'm in the middle of series 2, loving it.
Yeah,
so
it's brilliant,
obviously the
isn't
young Queen Elizabeth,
Yeah.
and I love the character of Prince Philip. He's
Isn't
really,
he?
he's
I
really
was just about,
sassy.
yes, he is.
Isn't
And you
he?
think now he's 96
I
or
know,
something.
poor
I
man.
wonder if he's still like
He's being
that.
kept in a zoo. That's how it's portrayed. It's really fascinating. So that's pretty much
What
I've
you've been up
doing.
to.
Mm.
Well, I took my granddaughters to The Lion King
Oh.
yesterday, and look, it made me weep, and I loved it until the animals started talking. And then I just thought, oh my God, I can't take this. It's in between genres, it's not an animal. So I felt a little bit, I didn't love it in the end.
Okay,
But it brought back memories of when we took our daughter Kath to the Lion King in London when it was a stage show, and she cried all the way back to the hotel. I said, what's the matter? She said, because it's finished and because I'm not in it.
That's gorgeous. That's the best reaction ever.
And so actually this last few days I've been knitting, and as Maureen, who's no doubt listening, knows, I am a terrible knitter.
Okay.
But I do it because I love it. And most of the family have given up and just refuse to wear anything I knit. But Kath will still wear it. She's wearing a 2-year-old scarf that I knitted. And so I thought, I'll make her a new one, and it's dark green. And she said she loved it. And look, I think there's a real lesson in knitting, and also bad Sunday painting. I'm a terrible painter, but I love it. And look, if you're an aspiring artist of any type, and you just feel you're not going to cut it professionally, it's wonderful to do it for love, because the rewards are different and richer. And look, I can tell you, I love writing, but the minute you get that contract from the publisher that you've always dreamed of, something happens, the walls close in, you have a deadline, you suddenly become very panicky and self-critical, and it's the end of that romance. And for me personally, I don't know if it's the same for other writers, but the expectations go up, and so if you have something you love and you do it badly, please keep doing it, because there's magic in that.
That's so encouraging. That makes me want to go and cook badly for my daughter.
Yeah, because not as we've said before, not everything is physical. And in my knitting, there are gaps, and in those gaps is love. And in the gaps and the burnt edges of whatever you're cooking your daughter, she'll know at some level there is love.
Oh, that's cute. I do often say to her, this is made with a lot of love. What's for dinner, Mum? Minestrone soup, but made with love.
Yeah, and it is, one day they'll realise it, won't
Hopefully.
they? So that was sort of my week. And my other big thing, of course, was looking at your manuscript for the first time.
Yeah.
Oh, she's cringing.
I know, I'm freaking out.
No, now look, would you like the good news or the good news.
Oh, well, that's exciting. Should we open the clinic? I'm literally kind of shaking. I feel like I'll go with the good news, please.
Oh, good. Well, Kate's presented me with, I think it's 6,000 words.
About 6,000,
including an outline. And this is a good practice because if you do 3 chapters and an outline, basically at the end of all this, that is what you would present to an agent or a publisher.
Okay.
And from that point, they would decide whether they wanted it or not.
Right.
So it's a really good practice.
Okay.
The good news is you can write. And I didn't realise what a gamble this was taking you on, because I'd never actually read anything that you'd written apart from your emails, and enjoyed your company, and I knew you had this sense of humour. So it's a huge relief to me that you can write, and I love your opening paragraph. I just love that. That is so sparkly and wonderful.
Oh, far out.
Yeah, so congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, would you like the good news?
Yes, please. I'm freaking out. I'm
the
sweating.
good news is you've got a lot of work to do.
Good, yeah.
A lot of work.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you did say that the first draft will be crap.
Shit. Yeah.
She did say shit. Yes, which I've been actually finding quite liberating, because I keep facing that blank page and thinking, I don't know, so I'm just doing anything at the moment.
Mm-hmm. I was hoping meeting Tara and experiencing her courage, you might be inspired to dig a little deeper into your persona. But you see, the great joy of fiction is it's not you.
Exactly.
You have the luxury of actually making it not you.
Exactly.
And you know, it's not a memoir, so you have wings, girl.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you like with the story, so be brave.
Okay, and I do want to go deep. And I think the early bit that I've given you, to me, I'm kind of, and wrongly or rightly, or whether I fix it and change it, of course, but I tried to just set the scene. I'm hoping the deepness is going to come a bit later, but I don't know. Like,
I think you need to have the deepness now, so you know in your heart where you're heading.
Right.
And I have my own opinion, and you don't need to take any notice of it at all, but ever since we've talked about this, I've felt in my heart there's a direction it would be good for you to go in, a very deep.
You're talking about my mum's death?
Maybe.
Yeah.
And you can do it in a way, and it's not your mum, that it's someone else's mum.
Well, that's the thing, because I think originally when we had a discussion at Phillip Island, when I first told you the concept, I was planning to have a death in there. Then I sort of pulled away from the idea because I had to be careful out of respect to my mum and family.
You felt that, but look, listen, you're a fiction writer now. Yeah. It's not your family's death, it's a death. You're using your experience from that to tell a story in a meaningful way that's going to help others. And look, I would say go for that. Okay. I would say take a leaf out of Tara's book. Yeah. What is there to lose? And actually, you even told me something that I thought would make a wonderful ending, but maybe we won't go there yet. Just for you to toss around.
All right. Well, I immediately know which character I would like to die. That sounds awful. Because, and I do think, I'm so glad you said this, because I can feel a response in me knowing that I am ready to handle a death. I mentioned last week on the episode that my mother committed suicide. So it's a suicide, it's a type of death that's really specific. And unfortunately, I've experienced that, you know.
As have many.
Yeah. And it's a huge issue in Australia and worldwide.
Yes.
Mental health.
So, so good to talk about it.
Well, you're right. I know, and I know that I can, and I'm ready to do it. I think it's that fear of there's a few faces I can see when I even say it.
Yeah, well, you have to release those faces. As you sent me that link yesterday, they're even talking about death on Play School now.
I know.
You know,
it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay.
And look, another thing I feel I've been watching a fair bit of telly, and with the book you're writing in 2019, you're competing with television.
Yeah.
And the women characters now are so strong.
Yeah.
And even the heroines or women heroes have the big, massive faults, and it makes them very lovable.
Yeah.
And also likewise the villains have lovable aspects to
Yeah.
them too, you know. So
Yeah.
I think you'll have fun layering up these characters.
Yeah, that's true. And I think, I mean, I wasn't sure. Pretty much what you've seen is the main characters that are going to be in it. One question I did have was, do I have too many? Not enough?
Not at all. You don't have too many.
I don't have too many.
No. One, I don't know how much we need to reveal to our listeners, but I would love upping the ante. The character Murray is going to be betrayed by her best friend.
Yes.
I would love things to get even more claustrophobic and have the best friend working in the same office. So, you know, it's like an island. Whenever I go out to Phillip Island, all the characters, they can't escape each other.
Yeah, no, this is, so she is in there, so that's Rachel.
Is she coming in?
She's been mentioned, she hasn't been in the office, but she's in the workplace.
Yeah,
I took that from you a while ago. You said throw them all in together.
Make it more intense.
All right, good.
But I think we should talk about the writer's box.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, because I think that could be helpful at the time. Every book I've written, I've had a box for. And look, I didn't realise, who was it? Was it Cindy in Canada said J.K. Rowling's got a box.
Really?
Well, she must be just copying me. I'll send her a bill.
Some of you, if you're in the Facebook group, you would have seen I found a really nice box at home. It had a
beautiful.
whole bunch of receipts in it that I just dumped into the bin, which felt so good. They were years and years old. So I've got a box.
Good.
But Helen has this beautiful blue box.
And, you know, oh gosh, it's heavy.
Yeah.
This is a box. I've had a box for Cleo. I've had a box for After Cleo or Cats and Daughters. I had a box for Tumbledown Manor.
Okay.
And I would, into these boxes, I would put anything that is an emotional kind of tag to what I'm writing about. So with Tumbledown Manor, I was using my grandmother's house in Castlemaine as a kind of rough background for that novel. So any old photos I found of the house, any scraps of wallpaper that looked like the wallpaper I'd seen there, you know, just all went in the box. So in moments of kind of, when I was feeling lost or disconnected from the story, I could go to the box, touch it and feel a visceral connection with it. So this is a book that I haven't written. I've been meaning to write it for years, about Taranaki in New Zealand where I grew up. And I've had many issues with this story because I don't know whether to tell it as a memoir or as a fiction. So it's got various versions.
I'll have to narrate for those who are listening on audio only. This box that is a beautiful sort of duck egg blue, is that the colour you call it? It's quite large, and Helen just opened it and it is literally full. It is actually full to capacity.
It's full of the first time I had a go at this story, which heavens knows that's written on a typewriter. So that's 30, 40 years old. But I would want to include that if I ever write this book. And then I did another version that I thought was quite good. And then I took it to Michaela in New York, and she's the one who said, your family's not crazy enough. But they do want me to write about my first cat, and he would be in the story. What's that noise? Oh, it's on that side. So and there's a diagram of the gasworks, because my father was the manager of the local gasworks. I don't know why I put that there. But yeah, I quite like this outline. So I've done what you've done, the 3 outlines, and I think I did a couple of chapters. There's an article about the mother myth. I don't know what that is. Lots of photos that my dad took from that time.
What's this?
This is my very first camera. And Dad loved photography.
I'll show our YouTube audience if we ever get our videos up. Look at that case.
It's a Voigtlander.
So can you see that? That is so. Again, for audio people, this is just the cutest little old-fashioned brown case I've ever seen. What's it called?
A Voigtlander.
A Voigtlander.
Because Dad had a dark house under the house, and that was his kind of escape from our madhouse. There's some school photos. Look at this wonderful restaurant from the 60s called La Scala, and it's just totally...
That's a postcard with a really cool old school restaurant.
Red carpet, wire chairs. So, I would love to, if I was thinking about that time to write about it, I would certainly look at that picture and find inspiration. A couple of books that might inspire me.
Okay.
Bill Bryson, Life and Times of the Thunderbolt Kid. That's mainly, that's non-fiction about growing up in the US in the
so that's his story.
50s and 60s. Yeah, and it's a very different experience actually from what I had in rural New Zealand. I Capture the Castle. Dodie Smith, she turned that in her story into fiction.
Okay.
And it's very glamorised about catching a man and that sort of stuff. I wouldn't be probably bothered with that. But, you know, she's a beautiful writer.
Wow.
A program from the Mikado, because Mum was always in the local operatic society productions. She loved them. So I'd probably be including that. And there's no doubt a photo of my cat. Lots of notes. The last time I was back in New Plymouth, I took some more notes. Don't know what that is. So this is what I would recommend. I don't know why I've got a stone from Broome, but I would recommend to you and to anyone listening, even if it's not a book, if it's some artwork or creative project, get a box.
I love this.
Put the stuff in it, and it will give you courage and belief that what you're writing about is real. Yeah, it's real. There's a photo of them.
Oh, I love it, Helen. That's not what I expected.
Oh, what did you expect?
I don't know. I just
did you expect a Jack in the Box?
Such a mystery. I honestly thought some sort of this is quite cliche, but I thought it would be like inspiration to write. I didn't know it was going to be on that one project, and it's artifacts to inspire. I don't know what I thought, to be honest. I think the idea of an empty box is just, it's too empty. I didn't know.
So have you got any thoughts what you would put in your box?
The minute you did that, and I will take a photo and we'll post it. I'll take a photo of Helen holding her box so that people can see it. Who are listening,
That's a rude word in some
a little bit. That's okay. We're very G-rated. The first thing I thought of is my mother's suicide note.
Yes. Have you got that?
Yes.
It's the original?
No, it'll be a copy. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. That's
Please.
straight away. That's the why
I wondered about that, Kate.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because you're right. And I think, if anything, yes, meeting Tara did give me a huge burst of courage, but you're following it up today by saying, go there.
I'm putting a rocket up your sister.
I know. And I kind of, it's maybe like I knew that on some level, I probably know that I am ready, and I've spoken about the fact that my sister Jane is writing about Mum's death at the moment.
Don't worry about that. Don't think about that. She's doing it for herself from a different perspective.
She is, and
And look, I'm hammering you from a very commercial angle.
Okay.
That's why you're coming
Hammer away.
Yeah, well,
this is a commercial clinic.
Feel free to walk out the door.
No,
I'm just,
I get it. I think I need to go there too to make it worthwhile, and I think even when I was talking to Tara last week, I was like, oh, but that's not what I'm writing about. I think there's that.
I know, the block.
Yeah.
The block. And that's why I was saying with you, the theme of this week should be open up. Open up. Like we opened up that box, and go deep, you know.
Yeah.
Those are the two things. And without fear. Physically, because I've been thinking about this for the past few days.
Mm-hmm.
If that doesn't make sense to you, when you walk down the street, look up. Look at the sky. There is openness, and you'll find you breathe more deeply, and that will give you inspiration, I think, and assurance that you can open up. Trust.
Absolutely. And I think one thing that's happened since we started our podcast, which was from our first couple of sessions, clinics, about the why of writing, and you immediately talked about that idea of giving yourself space, allowing space for the creativity to come to you. And I think I've told you this, but I've actually cut a few things out of my life in the last few weeks. I resigned, temporarily from book club. I resigned from my movie club. I actually resigned from, I was joining the local Greens group to try and learn about politics. I thought, no, I'm going to pause all that. I can do that any old time. I've actually given myself space, and today's Wednesday, on Monday night, I normally would have rushed off to this AGM for this thing and given all my attention to this other thing. And instead I wrote, and I'm giving myself space. And even on my walk yesterday, normally I jam an ebook into my eardrums. I pressed pause on it after a while and just started thinking.
Good.
And I think even for me, letting space in, it's a little bit scary.
I know. I sense that about you.
Yeah, it is a little bit scary. And I think that busyness, I've been so, I think I told you about this when I first decided to leave my marriage. I love calendars, and I get the Frankie calendar each year and I love it. And I was so scared that this blank calendar was going to stare back at me. I have no life. I'd have nothing on each week. I did not know what the shape of my new life was. And I was so paranoid, and my instinct was just to say yes to every goddamn thing that came my way. Do you want to meet us and talk about such and such on a Wednesday night? Sure, yep, I'll do that. Do you want to join my book club? Yep, I'll do that. Do you want to make a movie club? Yep, I'll do that. I just did everything because I was so desperate to look, and this is relating to Tara, to show the world, oh yeah, I've got a life. I'm doing this. That I've just filled it with so much stuff to the point where some weeks I look at that calendar and it's just gone a bit too much.
Yeah. And you know, I belonged to a book club many years ago, and the prospect of joining one for me personally is very inhibiting, because I care too much what other people think, and I always think people are much more intelligent than I am, and if they like a book and I hate it, well then I feel stupid, and there's no way I would be able to go home and write, you know. It wasn't till I left that lot that I freed up, because they all seemed so intellectual to me. And same with movies. Look, you get a few free hours in the afternoon, go to a junky movie. I went to that one about, what was it, Book Girls?
You told me.
Yeah, and it was crap, but it was current. And as a writer,
it keeps you engaged.
Yeah, and you know what people are talking about, and you're still learning.
Yeah. So look, that's been good. It's been a little bit scary. I'm giving myself space, and you're right. What we're talking about today is a little bit scary. The idea of going there with my mum's death in a fictionalized format.
Is there anything else you'd put in your box for now?
Immediately, I thought of her suicide note. When I think, Bruce stuff.
That's all right. That's good. What would you put in there?
And see, that makes me like flustered as well. I've in preparing for today's episode, I've got boxes like that just jammed full of stuff from the past, letters, etc. I was looking for something to show you and I couldn't find it. I was going to show you an old story I wrote as a kid, you know, but I couldn't find them. But I found something from Bruce, and I hadn't thrown it out. When we first got together, Emmy and I, and we still don't do this, we're not very good at eating at the table. We're just we're a bit too modern. We both kind of eat in separate spaces, and when my ex came into my life, he sort of made a big thing of saying we're going to all sit together, and we're going to be like more of a family. It makes me emotional thinking about it, because at the time it was lovely. And I've still got this handwritten thing that he wrote saying these are the dinner table rules, and Emmy was obviously little at the time. It was like no leaping up onto your chair and just funny silly things. It was cute. It was a positive thing.
And now at the moment
I've got that.
I don't like the husband in the book at the moment, the way I want to find out why you fell in love with him, and what you've just described is a reason to fall in love with a guy, really, you know. This is what I was saying before about villains not being all bad, and I want to love Murray, the main character, and I want to see her faults as well. She seems a little bit submissive. Why is she so submissive to him? When she earns more, she's very dynamic in the office.
I know. See, I may be making her too dynamic because...
no, we want dynamic women in this.
No, I know we want, I want her to become dynamic. That's got to be her arc.
So what's going to make her dynamic?
Her marriage falling apart. I've got to, maybe I haven't struck it right yet, or something. I don't know yet, Helen. I've got to work it out. She's got to
discover something about herself.
Yeah. I'm trying in my head, and I haven't probably achieved it yet. It's obviously very early days, but I actually want to show a woman who doesn't know how capable she is. I'm not sure if I've got that note right yet. To me, that's one of the main challenges I want to do in this book, is show someone not knowing how strong, capable they are, and show them on that process.
She would feel frustrated with herself though, wouldn't she? She
Yeah.
would have that
Low
awareness.
self-esteem
Yeah,
and
I
know that
think-
she's not fulfilling her potential. That's
Yeah.
why I'm staying in the workplace, because I want to show someone who's capable of much more, but she's staying in her little...
And your Murray character doesn't have a child the way
No.
you do.
No.
I'm wondering if she should have a dog or a pet python or something, because animals are very helpful
Yeah.
figures, really, because...
I was going to have a pet originally.
Or maybe she gets one.
Well, she was going to get one later because,
Rescue dogs
I've got to
are
work
very
it out. We did
fashionable,
talk about
and
that.
then, that could become a pivotal character.
Because she's longing to have a baby, I guess I'm kind of thinking that absence, maybe the animal can come.
Yeah, surrogate.
Yeah,
Maybe.
exactly.
There's lots of rich material here, isn't there?
Yeah, and I see, it makes me feel good because you're making me realise that the jumping on the page, which I have been finding a bit daunting because there's no shape yet, I'm realising in discussing this today that then I can answer the questions once I've dumped a bit. So I just...
But I think this kind of self-examination is really important, because then you will realise where the structure's going.
Okay, so would you recommend, I mean, I will get to our diagnosis, maybe should we, because I was going to say, like, would I use these thoughts to perhaps revisit my structure and introduce, from now, and then keep dumping?
Yeah, because I think you'll get to a point where the dumping's helpful because it gives
moves
you
you ahead.
confidence. Yeah, but you will, I think if you go into these characters a little bit more, they'll guide you on an arc. And it might maybe take you somewhere you didn't think you were going. I hope, if you're listening, I hope there's some useful guidance in this. One thing it's made me realise how difficult writing is.
Absolutely.
It really is. Yeah. So look, if you're just journal writing, enjoy it. What we're looking at now is so complicated.
That's so true, because lately I've noticed, and I still am journaling a lot at the moment, and that's just, I've given myself permission to do that because I enjoy it. But you're right, I realise now journaling is just...
It's a dream compared to this.
There's no
because
thought required.
As a professional writer, you have to keep the reader's requirements at the front of your mind all the time, and that they can get bored, especially nowadays. You know, that you've got to really hook them in and make those main characters so riveting that they want to find out what's going to happen next.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I feel like would you agree then that what I could do is just go back to what I've started with, think about this death that I did originally want to include and how that's going to work, and just basically revise my chapters a bit, do you think?
Get your box going.
Get my box going.
It's all going to come from the box. Start with that suicide note.
Okay.
Anything your mum gave you that you treasure.
Oh, I've got heaps of letters from mum.
Yeah.
And
put
photos.
those in there, you know.
Okay. And some of that stuff from
Bruce, that was lovely. I mean,
that's hard. That's actually hard for me too.
That's all right. This character, I've forgotten his name, the husband.
Jake, of course.
We've got to fall in love with him a little bit before he does the dirty on her.
Okay.
Because otherwise, she's an intelligent woman. She, you know,
yeah.
he's got to do a pretty clever dirty on her.
I think you're right. I've got to fine tune it. I think what I've presented now is the character who's evolved. I need to probably pull back a tiny bit on her confidence.
But I would suggest that she also needs to be very self-aware of that, and maybe trying to get help with it, or so that further along in the book,
that makes sense. Yeah,
things click and she realizes what really needs doing.
Yeah, okay.
And it may link back to that. If you're willing to look at suicide, it may link back to that, the healing that needs to take place after something like that.
Okay, that's really good thoughts.
Do with them whatever you like. It's not.
No, it's great. It's very helpful.
I'd love to, if someone's listening, they've got questions about their own projects. It would be quite fun to discuss them too.
Absolutely.
If you're interested.
Yeah, and we hope it does help. But it just does show the complexity of this process.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
I don't know why I've done it. Oh, goodness.
It is really hard. It's challenging, which is good.
And this is only the very beginning of the process. You go out and they say, oh, well, it's only sold 1,000 copies. It's a flop.
Gosh, I know.
They won't say that about this if you can pull this off, though, and keep it very current. I love that you've kept everything in this year, you know, everything, and there's stuff.
Which was your recommendation.
You use a few technological with words that I would like better explain, but I love the
the currency
and the high drama in the office, and she does have a bit of self-awareness, that character.
Okay.
I like Wade, and I love. We'll have to tell the listeners about what happens in that first chapter.
Should we do? Did you want me to read anything?
How are we doing for time?
We're at the 30-minute mark, so we could save it for next time. Okay.
Because I do want to do a session about sex scenes.
That's good. How did you think
I thought that was brilliant.
It was okay.
She does a very good sex scene.
Oh God! Really?
Yeah.
I didn't mention socks, but I mentioned the trousers.
It was great, and I like that it was brief and
it was spontaneous.
It was fantastic.
Oh, good.
Yeah. That's a skill. Just do sex scenes.
Maybe I'm an erotic fiction writer. That's good.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I've never done a sex scene before, really.
It's very good.
I just went for honesty.
Yeah. And she's not a victim in that sex scene.
She wasn't.
No.
Okay, good.
So I've got great hope for her.
Oh, good. Hilarious. All right. Well, look. Just to get our order right, let's officially do our diagnosis, and then I'll do a quick Planet Social recap, and then we're done.
So you wish for my diagnosis or referral? What
do you think after today's session?
I have 2 pieces of medication I want you to take.
Okay.
Now you've got Netflix.
Yes, I do.
I want you to watch Series 1 and Series 2 of Glow. I never thought I would get hooked into women's wrestling. But what is great about this, there's some themes that are in your book of a best friend sleeping with a woman's husband. Right. So there's betrayal of 2 women who are incredibly close. Okay. And it's told through the eyes of the woman who does the dirty deed. Right. And so she should be a very unsympathetic character. But you end up feeling sympathy for her, as well as the woman who's been betrayed, and you get a lot of wrestling. And it's fantastic. Oh God. I love that all the women in there, and Series 3 seems to have gone off the rails, but they're multi-dimensional.
All right.
And they're women of this century, they're great. They're great.
Okay.
Got the full thing.
Thank you.
So please watch Glow.
That's a great
diagnosis.
And
the other one.
Yes.
We've mentioned this before, but in a different paradigm. Fleabag. Have you watched the whole thing?
I've watched the whole thing. I loved it.
Of course you did, because the whole arc is about a woman who's lost her mum to cancer. Yeah. And it's basically a story of grieving. And she makes it so entertaining and wonderful. There's inspiration for you.
I do love
And she has a sister, doesn't she?
Yeah, she has a sister. There's that dynamic, and then there's the best friend who also died.
Yeah, so you can kill off plenty of people if you want to. And I love that. I've only seen a couple of episodes of that, but I saw the last one and how the dad weeps.
Yeah,
everyone has their pain, and I think that is a wonderful way to write, acknowledging rounded characters, that everyone has issues that they're dealing with.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's that depth of the character, isn't it? Yeah.
You've got space to do that.
Yeah.
You've got time to do that.
Yeah, I do. Okay, wonderful. That's the best diagnosis ever. I love it. Go and watch good content. Just a quick update about the world of social. So, as you know, we've set up our Facebook group for this podcast. So just if you haven't joined it and you would like to, just search Novel Therapy in Facebook and you should find us. I think we've got 77 members in there.
Double from last week.
It's crazy, isn't it? Yeah. It's really good. I just wanted to give a quick update about, or not update, but a spotlight, I guess, on groups, because I was sort of interested in, my personal feeling has always been, a lot of people say, Facebook's not as, people have been predicting the demise of Facebook ever since it's begun, really, and yet the stats still show it's the most popular platform in Australia and globally. It's got 2.4 billion users globally, and in Australia I think 94% of Australian social media users are on it, so it's still by far the big gun. But my theory has always been lately that the thing that's keeping Facebook in our lives is events and groups. I really think that that's become a bit, it's got its octopus tendrils into our lives, and even today I was looking at Facebook and it's like friends of yours are going to the following events this weekend, and you get that natural FOMO and curiosity.
Yes.
So it's really clever. But groups, I didn't actually realize until I looked it up, but groups are actually, they are as significant as I sort of suspected, because I looked at an article about it, and basically group membership last year was up 40%, and actually 1.4 billion, so nearly half, well, over half the user base are in groups. And of that 1.4 billion people using groups, about 200 million people, according to this article I found, are in meaningful groups, which are actually a vital part of their lives. And that hopefully is what our group is a meaningful group. It's not just, I'm sure there's so many trashy meme groups, and there's lots of groups for humour, and I guess that can be meaningful too, but groups are actually playing a powerful role. And one thing that I found interesting, that again I always suspected, is that I think Zuckerberg, Mark Zuckerberg, really is putting groups and a community focus in. The algorithm is favouring community things. He had a bad year last year in 2018 with fake news and political collusion and all those sorts of issues, and associating poor mental health with platforms like Facebook. So I think it's been really important to Mark Zuckerberg to make sure that community is in the spotlight again. So the algorithm has been retuned to support groups and things like news from your friends and family. So it's actually a change that's happened. And basically if you look at groups now, there are more insights. I've run groups before, and now you can do things like look at insights into groups. You can moderate better. There's actually a false news fact-checking feature, which really reflects that year that they had last year. And one group I wanted to recommend, other than our group, obviously, is a fabulous group called Like-Minded Bitches Drinking Wine. Now, I think I've recommended this to you in the past, Helen. It is a female-only group, but it is such a cool group. It is now up to nearly 115,000 members, primarily Australian, and their description is that it's a group for entrepreneurial-minded and business-savvy women who love their wine. The funny thing is no one ever talks about wine really in there, but I think it's more a lifestyle statement, that it's about busy, relaxed women.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So if I can ask you some advice, with my children's book Cleo and Rob coming up, should I be forming a group for that to tell people where to come for events and things?
Potentially, but one other way to look at utilising groups for that is to start tuning into parent and mum groups, and more, instead of, you don't always have to create it from scratch, because that can take time. But perhaps it's about looking for existing groups, joining them, and then letting them know.
Okay.
So I would be looking at existing groups of mums who are into perhaps educational books, is one angle, or like big pages like Kids Spot, and there'd be lots of other established brands that'll have subgroups. I'd get in there and share the news that way.
Well, I hope that's helpful for whoever's listening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Again, that's just a little sort of business.
Because everyone seems to have a brand these days.
Oh yes, we're all brands. It's crazy. So that's kind of it. And yeah, we're having some issues with YouTube, just the uploading of it. I'm finding it's taking so long to upload the videos, but we'll press on, and hopefully one day I'll announce in the group that YouTube is live. We'll see how we go, but yeah, it's just taking a long time. I might need to speak to my video savvy friends about that, because it seems to be taking forever to upload.
And thank you everyone for coming to this clinic. Those who are listening can come free of charge today.
Exactly, we'll sort that out on bills.
And
later.
we didn't say journey, and we
know it's much better.
We didn't say awesome. We didn't say
amazing, lovely,
or lovely. What's happened to us?
I think it's happening in my subconscious. I'm being less lazy with
Isn't
words.
that fantastic?
Thank you.
And there is one more word I'd quite like to add in there if we can get away with it, and that is scary.
Oh,
people use
I think
it.
I said that today.
Oh, well, that's all right.
Okay.
You didn't know it was banned.
No, scary.
But I hear, 25-year-old young men saying that their haircut is scary, or that it's just got silly.
Do you know what else they say, which I don't like? Hectic. And it's like, that's hectic, man. It's like, oh my God.
You don't know what hectic is.
Exactly.
You haven't given birth. No,
that is hectic.
Yeah.
True. All right. Well, we'll consider those words. Please let us know if you've got other words you'd like on the list. I think Linda from Cocoa Place, where I work in Mornington, wanted awesome. So we've got awesome, amazing, lovely, journey, scary, and hectic potentially.
Wow. Half a dictionary.
It's building up. Yeah. So don't be lazy with words, people. That's the message.
And open up Open up, look up at the sky. It's all up there.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful note to end on. So thanks again. Catch us in the group. Thanks again for listening. Catch us in the group. And thank you again for everyone's awesome comment. Oh, I just said awesome. For everyone's
That's
really...
$1.
that is $1. For everyone's encouraging comments and tagging us and mentioning us. We're absolutely loving the feedback. So please keep it up. And we will chat to you next time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.